Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this video, I'll show you how to design neon light effects for your buttons. So let me show you how it works. We can see that this is the normal button, and when we hover over the button, we can see we have this neon light effect for the buttons, and we also have a flicker effect. So you may have seen these kinds of effects in a lot of modern websites. So this is what we're going to design in this video from scratch using HTML and CSS. So let's get started. Alright, so I have created a new project called Neon Light Button. It is simply an empty folder, and I have just opened it with this code editor called VS Code. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll create an HTML file. So let's go ahead and create an HTML file over here, and we'll also create a style.css file so that we can style it using CSS. Alright, let's start with the HTML file, and since we are using VS Code, we have this shortcut of just typing exclamation and press tab, and you can get this basic HTML file code. And let's also link our style.css file over here. Now the HTML is really simple. We just have to create a button. So let's type button, and we'll also give it a class of neon button, and the text we are going to have in our button is neon button. I have installed an extension called Live Server on VS Code. So if you go to here in extensions, we can see Live Server over here. You can just search for Live Server and install that. Once you install that, you will have the option of right clicking over here and going to open with Live Server. What this will do is whenever we make changes to our code and press save, the browser will automatically be refreshed, so we don't have to click on refresh every time. So this saves us a lot of time. Alright, so our button is being displayed over here. Now let's go to our style.css and let's start styling our button. First of all, let's place our button right in the center of our screen, horizontally and vertically. So let's type body, and we'll give it a height of 100 viewport height, and we'll set the margin to 0, and we will set the display to flex, and we'll set align items to center and justify content to the center. Alright, now our button is perfectly in the center, horizontally and vertically. Now let's style the button. So we will type button.neon button. So we have this button with the class of neon button, and first of all, let's give it a border of 3 pixels solid, and we'll set the color to FFA9B7, and we will set the background color to white. Alright, now let's set a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right. And let's also add a border radius for rounded corners, and we'll set the border radius to 10 pixels. Now let's set the font family to Roboto, and we'll set the font size to 32 pixels, and we'll also text transform to uppercase, and set the color of the text to the same color that we had given for the border, and we'll also set a letter spacing to 8 pixels so that we have a little bit of spacing between the characters. We'll also set the font weight to bold. Let's also set a margin of 24 pixels so that if you're using this button with other elements in our page, then we'll have this margin so that it separates itself from the other elements. And lastly, we'll also add cursor to pointer so that when we hover over this button, we have a different cursor. Now let's style the hover effect. So here we will type button.neon button :hover. And whatever styles we write over here will be applied when we hover over this button. So the styles that we want to be applied when we hover over this button is border color should be set to FA032C, and the color of the text should be set to the same color. And then we'll add text shadow for the text. We'll set the horizontal and the vertical position to 0 and the blur to 2 pixels, and the color will be FF4262. Alright, let's hover over the button and see whether we have the hover effect. So we can see that the hover effect is working. We can even increase the blur a little bit. So let's set it to 4 pixels. So we can see that we have the text shadow being displayed over here, which gives us this neon light effect for the text. Right now we also need to set a box shadow. So we will type box shadow, and in fact we will need 2 box shadows, one for the outside and one for the inside. So here we'll set the box shadow to 0, 0, 16 pixels, 0, and we'll set the color to FF4262. And let's hover over this, and we can see that the box shadow is being displayed over here. We can also add one more box shadow over here by just adding a comma. So I'll type comma, and I will just copy this same box shadow from here, and we'll type inset over here for setting the box shadow to the inside, and we'll just paste this over here. So we can see we have this neon light effect with both the box shadows. We'll change the values of the inset, so we'll just set it to 8 pixels, and now it looks fine. So we can see that the normal state and the hover state has been styled correctly. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to have the flicker effect. So when we hover over this, we don't want this to appear right away. We want to have some flicker effect, and then we need to have this neon light effect constantly. So for that we'll be using animations in CSS. To create an animation in CSS, you have to type @keyframes and then the name of the animation. We'll name the animation flicker. And you can set the animation to your HTML elements with different percentages. So you can set it to have some different effect at 0%, and at 10%, for example, you can have a different effect. So in this way you can go from 0% to 100% and add different values to that. So now since we don't want to have this effect applied directly, we just cut this from here and we'll paste it inside our animation. So first of all, let's just set 5%, and at 5% we will add these effects. And for the animation to work, here in the element we need to type animation and then the name of the animation. So the name of the animation that we have given over here is flicker, and then we can type the duration of the animation. So I'll just set it to 400 milliseconds, and then we can control the easing. So we'll just set it to linear. We have different easings like ease in, ease out, and you can even set a custom cubic bezier if you want, but I'll just stick to linear. We will add some more percentages and then we'll test the animation. So for 5% we will have this effect, and since we need to have the flicker effect, we need to go back to the original state again. So here we'll type 10%, and here we'll set the border color to the original color, that is FF4262, and we'll also set the color of the text to FF4262, and we'll just remove the box shadow, and we'll unset the box shadow and also the text shadow. Alright, now let's add a frame for 55%. And we'll just copy this and paste over here, and it will go through for 75%. So I'll just paste the same thing over here, and then at 80% we will have the normal state. So I'll just copy this and paste over here, and then lastly at 100% we will just go back to this effect. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here, and we'll change this to 100%. Right, now let's see how it works. So let's hover over our button, and we can see that the flicker effect is working alright. But after finishing the flicker animation, we want to stay at the last frame. So this is the last frame, and this is the effect we want at the last to stay. So for that you have to add a new keyword over here called forwards. So I'll type forwards over here in the button hover selector. So now let's test it and see whether it works alright. So we can see we have the flicker effect, and then lastly the neon light effect stays. So that's basically how you create a neon light effect for your buttons using HTML and CSS. And we have also seen how to add this animation for flicker. Now you can just go ahead and play with different values over here. You can add more percentages and make it work the way you want it to work. You can even change the color of the text or the border in between to make it even more dramatic. And you can even change the duration. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. I hope that you found it useful, and if you like this video, please click on the like button. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.